fair under Trump presidency that cut across global crude oil price, global currency exchange, global inflation, interest rate, bond stock, and geopolitical tension that normally impact on production and supply chain around the world. There are mixed projections about Trump's presidency by economists and market analysts. Some see his re-emergence as not necessarily good or bad for market. However, others say we should expect more volatility given what we know about his first term, where he had policy changing at any notice. Welcome to Market Report on ADBN Television. My name is Adefola Olamilekon, your host. On Market Report discussion segment today, we'll be looking at the re-emergence of Donald Trump and the global market. A lot have been said about Donald Trump and his re-emergence. So we'll be looking at it, dissecting what will happen if Donald Trump is eventually sworn into office and what will be his foreign economy policy about US. But before we go into that part of the discussion, let's quickly run through trending economic news around the world, starting from Nigeria. Over the week, CBN is to auction 513 billion treasury bills. According to the Central Bank of Nigeria, the auctioning bills are divided into three categories. First is a 20.75 billion for 91 days tenure. Second is a 5.4 billion for 180-day tenure. And last is a 487.23 billion for a 364-day tenure at a 29.87 yield. We could recall that CBN in the past, just in this year 2024, has rolled out over 374.67 billion across a 91 to 182 tenure earlier this year. Also, in a related development, DISCO, that means the electricity distribution company, have hiked meter by 28%. Now, electricity power distribution companies in Nigeria have announced a higher price for electricity meters, the second increase in just 4 months. The cost of a single phase meter has jumped from 117,000 to 149,000, representing a 28.03% or 32,800 naira increase, though the exact price varies from different distribution companies as we have them in Nigeria. Nigerians have reacted, particularly electricity consumers have reacted and criticized this particular move by electricity distribution company, calling it a wicked move by DISCOs in Nigeria. Also, the federal government opened a saving bond for November, a saving bond whereby corporate bonds and commercial bonds paper are being sold by the Debt Management Office as open for offer for subscription to 2 federal government saving bonds for November. Both offers were opened on Monday, November 4th, and will close on November 11, 2024. They are offered at 1,000 naira per unit, subject to a minimum of subscription 5,000 naira in a multiple of 1,000. The subscription is subjected to a maximum of 50 million. The coupon payment dates are February 13, May 13, August 13, and November 13, 2025. We could recall also that this year, 2024, the federal government has allotted a total of 9,544 worth of 2-year saving bond between January and September 2024, according to data from DMO office. Also, 24 billion 3-year saving bonds have also been issued within the same period amid the current situation that we have found ourselves in the country. And in a related development, also talking about bonds and treasury paper, amid liquidity crunch, banks in Nigeria have borrowed over 18 billion in the last 1 month, talking about the month of October. And CBN have also come out to say that this represents a 31.565% increase over and 57.14 billion borrowed in the same period in October 2023. However, commercial banks and merchant banks in over 10 months in 2024 have borrowed a staggering 104.61 trillion naira from Central Bank of Nigeria. That represents 532.1% compared to the 16.55 trillion they borrowed in 10 months in the year 2023. Going forward, talking about Nigeria Delta's story. Now, Edo State have overtaken Ogun and Kogi in mining production. According to a report by the AT, Edo State, for instance, recorded over 19.4 million tons, followed by Ogun State with 115.3 million tons, as well as Kogi State with 10.9 million tons. This information was contained in the 2023 Solid Mineral Industry Audit Report just released by the Nigerian Steel Industry Transparency Initiative, NATI, in Abuja. For instance, Ogun and Kogi have been known to be traditionally dominated the mining sector over the years. For instance, in 2022, Ogun recorded the highest production of solid mineral with 15.3 million tons, Kogi with 14.2 million tons, and Edo with 8.6 million tons. But all have now changed as Edo State has overtaken them with over 19 million tons of metric tons of mining. And also talking about Nigeria Delta story, Ibom Air has increased its fleet with 2 new aircraft they just acquired. Ibom Air, one of Nigeria's most decorated favorite airline, owned by Akwa Ibom State government and people, have acquired a Canadian-made CRJ 900 series Bombardier. The two new aircraft promptly expanded the fleet to 9, with a 7 CRJ 900 and 2 Airbus 200 and 300 series. Now, to people who have been saying, can government manage the business? Akwa Ibom State is showing others and making it known that government can actually manage business with their airlines they have been managing over the years. Let's now go to the global scene, where Trump win embodying dollar. Someone wants to ask, what has really happened? Just this morning or last night that Trump has been announced as the president-elect of US, the dollar has recorded a significant increase against other currency in the world, with over 3.8% just yesterday, meaning that the dollar have appreciated over every other currency that you can think of across the world. And analysts are saying that this gain could have a far-reaching implication from every domestic manufacturing across the world, meaning that because of this new value that dollar have emerged, at least import-export is going to be on a high side. Going forward, China export have surpassed projection over 2 years. Meanwhile, factories in China are in anticipation of higher tariff threat from the US and European Union. This is coming on the background of Donald Trump's sweeping victory in the US presidential election, with Trump-focused campaign pledge to impose higher tariff on China import. One of the key issues that we'll be discussing later in this program is that the Trump victory is already throwing spinal cord across the world, particularly a trade relationship with China. How will it solve? Will China and US ever be good as we have experienced under Biden? That is what is going to happen. Also, in a related development, Bank of England is expected to cut interest rates today. As we speak right now, the MPR and MPC meeting of the Bank of England are already meeting. Maybe before the end of the day, they are going to announce a cut in their interest rate. And cut in their interest rate will mean that there will be cheaper money for people to borrow in England. And it is expected that at least a 5.5% to 4.75% is realistic. A move closely watched by business and consumer. Cutting down interest rate will make borrowing more cheaper, but it's likely to reduce the return available to savers, which means that if you cut interest rate, people who are saving money will have less gains on their money. And the Bank of England normally meets 8 times in a year to decide when interest will be jacked up or when interest will be reduced. Now, coming back home, let's quickly run through all stock index as we have it traded today. A breakdown of the Nigerian stock will show that all stock index ended with 386.118 thousand. By bullish, meaning that it has an improvement on the stock. A deal of 9,021. Volume of 23% decline in volume, 50% decline in turnover, and 16% decline in deals. Market value as we speak right now is 10 trillion naira, and market capitalization is 58.5 trillion naira. Meanwhile, the aggregate side, in terms of looking at who are the losers, who are the gainers, we just have to go through it, as my producer will quickly show that on the screen so that you can quickly look at who are the losers, who are the gainers. Topping the gainers chart is NSL, Interlink, led by with 9.87 plus, and followed closely by Regency Alliance with plus 9.3%, Veritas Capital's Assurance with plus 9.17%, and that communication that suffered so much loss yesterday has really come back with plus 8.9%. On the losing side, UBA, that led the chart yesterday, is now gradually on the losing side with over minus 9.99%, and followed by Wando minus 9.98%, and Thomas Wyatt with minus 9.79%, and National Stock Company minus 7%, and Sterling Bank also recorded the highest volume of sales of over 79.6%. You can see on the screen, it's greeting you. You can see the top chart of the top gainers as well as the top loser from the Nigerian stock market. Moving forward, in terms of looking at global commodity, starting with energy commodity price, and energy commodity price is greeting your screen right now. You can see from WTI, you can see there's a drop in WTI with 71.4 dollar to a barrel, followed by Brent crude with $74.73 per barrel. Bonny Light is also there with about 78.69. Bonny Light is Nigerian made crude oil, and it has recorded a huge margin gains on the trading. Now, OPEC basket is about 75%, $75 per barrel on the market, followed by natural gas with 2.7320, as well as coal 143, and ethanol 1.58, and gasoline 2.03. All coming to you today from the market report on ADBN television. Now we have to quickly go through some break. When we return, it will now be time for us to go into our discussion. And that discussion is focused on the emergence of Donald Trump. What does it mean to global market? How will the global market fare under Donald Trump as the new president of America? Although he has been there before, but this is re-emergence, coming back for a second term on a new floor, on a new ground. What will happen to American foreign policy? Is it going to affect Africa? Is it going to affect Nigeria? And it's going to affect the general global economy? All that will be discussed with my guest in the person of Agaba Wilson Agaba, who is a business and financial consultant with iReport. In a jiffy, we'll be back after this short break.
In a world of overwhelming voices where everyone has different opinion on different issues, it is important that we bring the core issue to the fore. Join me, Nancy Banigo, on Softline as we lend our voices to inform and influence your thoughts and actions. This is not just mere talk, it is an invocative program that touches the core of our existence.
Welcome to the world where innovation meets opportunity, where ideas become empires. This is Market TV.
I am Idorian Flannan, and every week I'll be taking you inside the dynamic world of marketing and commercial business.
From groundbreaking startups to big businesses, Market TV brings you the best pricing and latest goods on display.
It's all about understanding your audience and staying ahead of the trends.
Witness the creative processes that drive the various brands.
Join us as we dive deep into the strategies that shape the commercial landscape. From streets to traditional advertising and social media, we cover it all.
Whether you're a seasoned professional or an aspiring entrepreneur, Market TV provides the insights you need to thrive.
This show gave us the tool to turn our vision into reality.
So, if you're ready to master the market, tune into Market TV every Saturday at 6 p.m.
Welcome back from that short break, and thanks for joining us on Market Report on your darling TV station, ADBN. I am Adefolayan, your host, as we examine and re-examine the emergence of Donald Trump as the new president of America. A lot of argument, a lot of issues have been raised concerning Donald Trump coming back for the second time as the president of America. Unlike in 2016 when Donald Trump was broadly on the people hardly understand his economic policy. But this time around, it has have a direction for higher tariff, a direction for anti-immigration, a direction for lower taxation, and a direction for deregulation of the American economy. All this being said, people are raising questions. What does this mean to the global market? How will the global market fare? From inflation to exchange rate to crude oil prices to geopolitical tension across the world, to supply chain across the world. How will the American foreign policy, particularly economic foreign policy, fare under a president of Donald Trump? And questions are also being pushed out that with Donald Trump being the president, a lot of mixed reaction has also been projected about him. I won't have much answer to some of these questions that will be raised, but I already have a guest that will be helping us to answer some of these questions we'll be raising in the person of Agaba Wilson Agaba. He is a business and financial consultant of iReport. Will be joining me through phone call. He's not here live in the studio, but we are going to make a meaningful conversation and very informative discussion on this re-emergence of Donald Trump as the president of America. Hello, Wilson, are you there? Hello? All right, okay, as I wait my guest to pick his call, other issues are also being raised concerning Donald Trump's presidency. For instance, just when he was announced as the president of America, the dollar got strengthened. The American dollar got strengthened by 3.8% against other foreign currencies, particularly against a stronger currency like pound sterling, euro, yen, and the rest of them. And people were asking the question, does it mean there's better day ahead for Americans? Does it mean there are better days ahead for American economy? Does it mean America is going to enjoy meaningful economic policy under Donald Trump? Even if that happens, what about the rest of the world? What about emerging economies like Nigeria? What about underdeveloped countries in sub-Saharan Africa? What about emerging economies that are trying as much as possible to survive the current water of global uncertainty, as well as disarticulation of the global economy? Particularly when Americans cough or when Americans catch cold, the world gets freezing. So people are now asking the question, understanding and judging from the past policy of Donald Trump when he came into power some few years ago, and the policy were a little bit not stable, the policy were considered to be uncertain. But this time around, are we going to say that Donald Trump is going to change from the usual uncertainty political and economic policy normally initiate? And we just hope that this time around there will be change, because the global market is expecting a more robust policy economy from the American government. During the Biden era, we saw a lot of changes, particularly budget cuts from America. And America tries as much as possible to reduce their own inflation. But at the end of the day, it has a gloomy impact on global market. So how will this fare on global market under Donald Trump? Even though Donald Trump anti-labor or anti-immigration policy is out there to affect some dependent countries like Nigerians who depend in going abroad or going to America to go and practice their skills and the rest of them. And such countries like Nigeria believe and depend on remittances, which we call diaspora remittances. And as we say, okay, my guest is already online. Hello, Chief Wilson.
Yeah, I can hear you, Chief.
Oh, so thank you for joining me, and we are glad to have you on Market Platform, on Market Report on ADBN. Thank you. A very good afternoon to you. So let's roll it. We are already behind time. So,
all right.
Trump re-emergence. What is your take?
Yeah. Well, the re-emergence of Donald Trump has significant implication for the world. And of course, it's no news to anybody who had paid attention to international news and close attention to the build-up to the American elections, that Donald Trump has a strong stance on certain issues. First of all, I want to start with his trade and tariff stance. You would recall that in his first stint, he waged an economic war with China, and he has continued to threaten that it is the way to go. It is possible that Donald Trump is going to go that dimension again, put higher tariffs on imports of goods from China, because he feels that all the jobs has been exported to China, and they have to bring the jobs back to America. And the best way to do that is put higher tariff on goods that are imported from China, so that by the time it comes to America, it cannot compete with those that are produced in America. What this is going to do is, one, it is going to, obstruct the global supply chain, because goods that are produced in China that are mostly supplied to the United States may no longer be in so much demand, and that break in demand can affect other countries who economy depends on the interaction between these two big economies. It is also possible that his policy might cause businesses who are manufacturing in China to move back to the US and to other nearby countries. This will be good for the nearby countries. This will be good for America. It will improve their jobs and all of that. But the implication, on the other hand, is that emerging economics and markets may suffer in terms of their currencies too, because what Donald Trump is going to do this is America first policy, is likely going to make the dollar firmer in terms of value. He's going to command more value. And he's likely going to increase interest rate. If he does that, then you will see people rushing with their investment into the U.S. market because they think it will be more profitable for them. He is also mounting cutting of corporate taxes. That will make corporations in the United States more profitable. And foreign direct investment may flow more towards America as against emerging economies in Africa and maybe Southern Asia.
Chiwisi, hold your thought a minute. I just heard something that you said, which is very, very key to our discussion. Now, the corporate tax that is planning to cut is being encouraged in other countries to be increased. Won't it be a double standard from the part of America? Because as we speak right now, a lot of Western countries are encouraging increasing corporate tax, and majority of the emerging economies are following that. Now, take this along with the issue of exchanges. So what do you have to say about that?
Now, I have always been, this is the reason why some of us have always encouraged those in position in Nigeria to sit down and think of what suits their own country. The West may have come out and say, oh, increase corporate taxes, do this and do that. It is a general blanket approach. They think it can take them from one position to another, or maybe strengthen their global position in the web of things. But then what Trump is targeting is to move jobs back from China to America. He feels that manufacturing should happen in America and instead of China. Because when Apple, for instance, goes to manufacture in China, the phones are imported back to the US. The major jobs are done in China. And the manufacturing operation and all of that pay taxes in China. He wants them to come back. If you want them to come back, you have to give them something that is more enticing, something that reduces, because one of the reasons those companies started moving from the US to other countries because of labor laws. You know, they have so much stringent labor laws. Hourly rate is so high in the US. By the time you pay all of those things, you are having very little amount of profit. So these companies started moving. What Trump is trying to do is to, we are going to keep the labor law so that our people are not shortchanged. They are still going to earn very well.
Now, let's come to the issue of the tax, because as I speak right now, there is this argument and counter-argument by analysts across the world that is planning a 60% impose on every goods that is coming from China. That is for China.
Yes.
We are not talking about other countries. Do you think this will be a realistic move by Donald Trump?
Donald Trump, that I know, can go for it, because if you pay attention to his first administration,
exactly,
Donald Trump tried to implement everything he promised the American people during the election, including everywhere in the world. You saw he went to Israel and planted their administrative headquarters in Jerusalem.
Exactly.
As against, everything Donald Trump said, he attempted to do it. Some he was frustrated, some he achieved. So you can almost take it to the bank that Donald Trump will attempt to do everything he said, because he just doesn't talk. He's a businessman who has succeeded thus far. So he looks into the future, come up with a plan that he thinks will work, and go all out for it. So rest assured, Donald Trump is going to attempt it.
Now, let's now look at it from the global market perspective, because one key issue that you and I have discussed about global economy in the past, and we are still discussing it at this point in time. With this emergence of Donald Trump, what will happen to global markets, particularly bonds, stocks, and other fixed income arrangements we all normally enjoy? just this week, federal government is trying to mop up some money from Nigerians that are selling about 3 categories of bonds. CBN is also releasing some treasury bills. And on the global economic side, by the time Donald Trump begins to implement his policy, this could be an effect on it. So what is your take on that?
Now, what is going to happen is that bond will become less attractive in the United States anyway. It will become less attractive. The corporate shares will be more interesting to people, because by the time you lower tax, and it's going to hit the bottom line, which is the profit immediately. You increase interest rate and all of that. The opposite will be happening to government-issued securities. You know, so it's going to be less attractive. And like I said, the emerging economy will suffer because the corporate entities in the United States of America becomes more enticing for investors. So people will begin to carry their money from emerging economies to go and invest in America. So that's going to cause a lot of inflow of cash into that economy and outflow of capital from emerging economies, Africa inclusive.
Now, as we are on this show right now, the Bank of England is about to meet. The Monetary Policy Committee of Bank of England is about to meet. And there's expectation that they are going to have a cut down on their interest rate from 5% to 4.75%. Now, the Federal Reserve Bank in US is also waiting for this election result before they take a decision. Do you see these two global power central bank coming to a convergence in terms of cutting down their interest rate as a result of the emergence of Donald Trump?
It is a possibility. It is a possibility, but I must tell you that this election has demonstrated that Donald Trump is quite popular in the United States of America, especially among the elites. And by elites, yeah, I'm referring to the rich people, comprising mostly of the entrepreneurs. You saw how close Elon Musk was to him, and other big guys. You know, they may have been neutral, and these guys are the guys that run the economy. So they may attempt to reduce the interest rate, but Donald Trump is saying otherwise. You know, so, and he will have a good say, and I know he's a great negotiator. He always brings business negotiation into politics.
You can't take that from Donald Trump. Chief, you can't take that from Donald Trump. We could remember that during his first time, he went to North Korea, he went to Saudi Arabia, he had party with, I mean, people consider as non-aligned to the US.
Yes. He was able to bring them to the table, although no superb agreement was made with North Korea, but he was able to have a sit down with Kim.
Yes.
So he's a great negotiator. If Donald Trump knows that bringing down the interest rate is not going to be palatable for his other policies, he's going to fight it and negotiate his way out of it. But I think that the two economies both have a goal in mind.
Exactly.
You know, both of them are facing inflation.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. I'm coming to that. I'm coming to the issue of inflation. But go ahead.
All right. Yeah.
Now,
and I mentioned.
Okay. Go ahead, Chief Wilson.
Okay. I mentioned to you in one of our private discussions that we have watched the Central Bank of Nigeria continue to increase MPR for the past almost 10 years in the bid of curbing inflation. And I came across a conversation with an economist, a British economics professor, and he mentioned something that before now, we all used to think, economic textbook tells us that if you increase interest rate, it will reduce the amount of money in circulation, and then it will reduce the willingness to pay and the capacity to pay, and then it will bring down the price of goods and services. Now, the professor was saying this appears not to be working anymore. And this could be attributed to a number of factors, which we have not researched to pinpoint. But I think, for instance, in the case of Nigeria, we may have too much money floating in the informal financial system, which this CBN policy does not control. So it is the same thing that these more developed economies are beginning to see. And they are beginning to think, well, look, this interest rate increment is not going to solve the problem. I think we have to look in other directions.
Exactly.
I believe that if a critical analysis is done, other forms of funds like cryptocurrency and the rest of them may be also guilty in the reason why increase in interest rate no longer controls inflation. These are also variables that are a bit volatile and have direct impact on the economy.
Now let's now go straight to the issue of inflation as well as other volatile economic problems that we know America face. One is issue of job creation. Just like every other country is suffering from job employment issue, America have their own stand. And as I rightly pointed out, one of the key things that Donald Trump is coming to do is to recreate jobs in U.S. by imposing taxes, higher tariff on imported goods from China and every other place. Now, on the aspect of his policy and emerging economies like Nigeria, because we want to take it back home so that our people watching can also understand why the emergence of Donald Trump has some implication, not just on global markets, but even domestic sub-regional economics and nations across the world. And this takes us to the issue of dependency that some emerging economies has always been on America. You know that we have thousands upon thousands of Nigerians in the US. And one of the key instruments that Donald Trump has always believed is anti-immigration law. And that alone could be a disadvantage to diaspora remittances that Nigerians have enjoyed. Other African countries have enjoyed over the years. Just this year alone, remittances from diasporas have exceeded 20 billion naira in terms of what people are bringing into Nigeria in terms of sending dollars. So what's your take on that?
You see, I will quickly brush through a few issues and articulate how I think that the emergence of Donald Trump can affect, and I'm going to zoom it down to Nigeria particularly, which will also apply to a lot of other African countries and developing countries or the third world countries. Number one, we have seen Donald Trump's interest in trade tariff. He's going to use trade tariff to control the import of goods and services from other countries into the United States of America. We also export certain things to the United States of America. That is going to affect our export in the first place. Now, you know, on climate change, he doesn't believe in climate change. He's going to roll back on climate regulations. Probably he's going to double down on exploitation of crude oil and the use of crude oil. This might be good for a country like Nigeria because that will improve the demand for
Bonny Light and Brent.
And that will improve the price of oil. Now, let's look at the immigration aspect, where he is very strict about illegal immigrants and all of that, telling people to stay in their country and all of that, which I actually agree with him. We should stay in our country and make it better too. If everybody was running from their own country, who would have built the one that we are running to? Okay, so trade relation, I have mentioned that, that our trade export volume will reduce. There is issue of security and investment. The United States of America is involved in several security initiatives in Africa. And as you can see today, we have the issue of the Boko Haram, we have the issue of the unknown gunmen, even the militants are still there. We now have kidnappers, banditries, and all of that. Donald Trump is saying we can't be big brother to the whole world. Let's fix our house first. You cannot be a big brother when you're in your own home. You are not feeding well, you are not doing okay. So you are going to see investment in such areas within other countries reduced drastically. In fact, you're going to see the United States of America pull out of so many multinational initiatives, you know, just like Donald Trump did in the first tenure. Then I told you that each time a policy firms up the United States dollar, it is going to have a negative impact on countries like Nigeria, especially for us who have debt, a very high debt that is denominated in dollar. So it means we have to gather more naira to be able to pay those debts. So our woes in terms of foreign debt may just be starting again. So these are some of the few ways that is going to affect Nigeria. And as you rightly mentioned, immigration law will not favor the inflow of Nigerians into the U.S., especially the skilled one who practice their or hone their skills there, earn money and send back to Nigeria. If they are unable to do that, then remittance from the United States, which is a significant part of the remittance we get in Nigeria, will reduce drastically.
Now, let me quickly ask you a yes or no answer. Do you see Donald Trump government through the U.S. foreign policy taking a new shift from Africa? Hello, Chief, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Now, what I'm trying to ask is that, are we going to see a change, a total change on U.S. foreign policy, particularly economic policy that support AIDS provision for African countries being a little bit shrink under Donald Trump?
No, I don't think that the change will be very drastic, seeing as this thing has to do with diplomatic relationship, right? But he will make significant changes. You understand? He will attempt to make significant changes, but it's not going to be as drastic as you would think, because the American system is well instituted, that certain robust system are there to prevent even the most volatile president from destroying certain relationships. So I don't think that is going to be too pronounced. But I think as Africans and other third world economy, we should firm up and start concentrating on developing our own economy through our internal resources. Stop depending so much on aid and start creating economic activities within our borders. Nigeria, for instance, I have been crying about the low-hanging fruit, agriculture. We have millions of hectares of arable lands. What are we doing with it? We are talking about genetically modified organisms and GMO and whatever they have been calling it, when we have not even fully utilized the naturally occurring crops and animals in our country. So we should focus on that. We should focus on repositioning our education system and the curriculum so that it targets providing solution to the problems we have in the country. We have problem. Our grid is always dancing. What courses are we studying in the university to be able to develop a new grid? For instance, I read somewhere recently that in Germany, there was a time in Germany that during the day, energy price went to -9 euros per unit. That means the company has to pay users to use their power. Why? They have developed their solar technology so well, their grid is so robust that homes that are using solar power, the excess that they don't use in the daytime are collected and channeled into the national grid so that it is supplied to other people who don't use solar. In Nigeria, our grid is not that robust. We can look at how our education system will help us do that. We are talking about housing issue. We can reposition. How can our education system develop local technology to reduce the cost of building houses? We have issues of road and rails. Why can't we focus our educational institution to do researches that will help us build rails faster, cheaper, and that last longer? We have issue of waste management. The issues are there. Our school system should be tailored towards these things alone. And we should stop studying, let me not mention some people.
All right. I will not allow you to mention anything on that. Now, Chief, let's quickly go back to the international arena. As we speak right now, there are geopolitical tension, Israel-Hamas war. There's also Ukraine-Russian war. And you know that basically when such geopolitical tension arises, one of the problems that normally comes from that is that supply chain, productive supply chain will be affected. Going by these challenges that we are faced right now, what is your take of the Trump presidency towards geopolitical tension as well as supply chain across the world? Because under Biden, the Russia-Ukraine war led to supply chain gap whereby steel and flour was blocked. Ship could not pass anywhere. So under Trump, what is your take concerning geopolitical tension against global market and economy?
Trump was very, very clear on what he would do, on his stance about the Ukraine-Russia war and the Israeli-Hamas war. He said he's going to stop the killing, that nobody should die, that the wars are unnecessary. He said if he was president, the Russia-Ukraine war wouldn't have started in the first place. So, and that is one of the reasons that many people who are aware of global politics supported Donald Trump. In fact, I've listened to a lot of analysts too who agree with you and I that Donald Trump is better for global peace than a Democrat candidate. And so Donald Trump says he's going to stop the war. And you could see that Donald Trump always was against funding Ukraine to keep them fighting Russia, even when you know you will not give them enough to win the war. So it's like you're prolonging the killing in Ukraine and the economic impact of this war. You know, so Donald Trump said he will even stop the war while he's president-elect. I don't know how he's going to do that. But I think he's going to take a shot at it. However he gets them to stop fighting, Donald Trump is going to take a shot at it.
Now, let's quickly, Chief, because of time, you know, time always plays some gimmick on us on this show. Now, just as Donald Trump victory came up, commodity across the world begin to bounce. For instance, dollar have gotten 3.8% value, and commodity price across the world are also receiving value. On my show today, I was able to reel out some commodity changing across the world, and people are saying, for instance, that the emergence of Donald Trump may not necessarily be a bad thing or a good thing, but we should just look in between the good and the bad, particularly from his policy economy that is coming up. What's your take on that? Is it going to be a bad one or a good one for global market?
Now, every event that occurs in life provides both obstacles and opportunities.
Exactly.
Those who are able to focus on identifying the opportunities will benefit from it. And those who focus on obstacles will be frustrated by that is what a Donald Trump's presidency is. Donald Trump's presidency in terms of America first, his immigration law, and all of that. Now, let me take it, I'm going to be very brief. The American first means that Donald Trump is going to remove emphasis from global spread, planting military bases across the country. America has more than 800 military bases across the world that they fund and all of that. And some of these things too, they cannot be innocent from the unrest that are happening in different countries, holding countries, third world countries by the jugular to the advantage of the American economy. If Donald Trump de-emphasizes that global grip, it means an opportunity comes for emerging economy to outgrow that barrier that the American system must have put on their head. So any leader that sees this will take advantage of it. On the other hand, you could stay and start crying that is no longer giving us enough money. You know, you say foreign aid has reduced, and you can be there and be crying and going cap in hand. On the other hand, too, when he makes stringent immigration laws, countries that have that can see the opportunity will take it as an advantage to bring the skilled labor that has developed in Abed, being some of them illegal immigrants that are going to be deported, to use their skills to develop their own country. Because human capital is the very basis for every economic development in the world. So you can see that it has both advantages and disadvantages. He is going to push back on climate restriction, and that is going to be good for those countries that have oil. It is going to be bad for the countries that have invested heavily in solar technology and alternative energy. So you can see it is neither here nor there, but it is how the economy position itself that it will benefit from the Trump administration or lose by the hand of the Trump administration.
Now, Chief, as we continue to, as I said, time is not our friend. Time is always tinkling ahead of us. Now, as we in the process of rounding up, investors across the world are looking out for a good policy economy from Donald Trump. Analysts like you and I, we need to offer some solutions, some remedies, some practical, empirical ways how to come around some of these issues. On your own part, there is no way we can rule out volatility. It is always, it will always be there. There is no way we can rule out uncertainty. It will always be there. The deep issues around emerging economies and other developed economies suffering from either partial or full inflation challenges will always be there. But from your experience as a financial consultant and business developer, what would be your advice going forward to investors, to businessmen and women, as we all await the unveiling of Donald Trump policy economy for the United States?
Like I've mentioned earlier, that, of course, and you also supported it with your empirical data from the beginning of the show, that a lot of sectors picked up more value the moment Donald Trump was announced president-elect. For investors, sometimes when, a person pushes a particular policy stance and the person is elected, there's so much expectation and the market reacts to expectation.
It's true.
It's all about what's the word now?
You expect as well as outright
speculation. Yes,
in the market.
Speculation. Exactly. And as he begins to build his cabinet, that will also still affect the market. So as investors, this is a time for those who want long-term investment to pay close attention, before making any hurried investment. For those who want to cash out quickly, of course, this is the time for you to take advantage, make some sharp investment, and cash out.
Now,
for economists,
Chief, I'm so sorry, I have to cut it on that. Now, in terms of Nigerian-U.S. relation, what should we be expecting under Donald Trump? Nigerian-U.S. relation. Just yesterday, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and other leaders across the world have congratulated him. So, taking it back home, what will be the Nigerian-U.S. relation under Donald Trump?
Donald Trump is a transactional leader. Transactional in the sense of true transaction. That's what I mean. Donald Trump runs a country like a business. Donald Trump is not going to give you one thing without having something. So that is what would define the relationship between Nigeria and Donald Trump. If you are going to ask something from Donald Trump is going to want something that is better for his people. He is going to want profit on whatever he does for you. And so we need people who understand how the global economy works, both in the short term and in the medium term as well as the long term, to be brought into the administration to be able to sit down and negotiate with America under Donald Trump. If not, Donald Trump is going to negotiate you dry. He's going to get everything you have. He's going to get antelope from you and give you cricket if you don't have good negotiators. Yes. So this is the time for us to sit up. It's not time for us to make politically motivated appointments into critical trade institutions. We should have the best hand, best advisors, consultant people with good experience with how America does their business and the implication of their business for our country and some of the relationship that we'll get into. The time will not allow us to begin to open up some other trade issues from the past that have shortchanged countries like Nigeria and other African countries.
Chief, I have to thank you very much. I'm so happy that you have to join me through the phone call because of issues about, but I'm so happy. I appreciate you for coming on air and thank you for your valuable insights on this issue. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you very much.
And I hope that maybe our next conversation, our next meeting, you'll be live in the studio so that our Nigerians can see you and see Chief Agaba Wilson Agaba, a financial and business development consultant all the way in Abuja here. Thank you very much. Chief, we'll see you later. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, for us here on Market Report, we believe that with the emergence of Donald Trump, there has been a stronger dollar as we speak right now. But what will happen to global crude oil prices? Nigeria have enjoyed $78 to 1 barrel of Bonny Light, Nigerian homemade Bonny Light. But what we need to say is this: for every policymaker across the world, it is time to brace up for the uncertainty, for the volatility that may come from American economy, particularly with the reemergence of Donald Trump. But as my analysts have said, or my guests have said, we should expect it on both sides, either the good one on the bad side. But we should all prepare to take advantage of the American government policy. And for Nigerian government, this is now the time to brace up. U.S.-Nigerian relationship is very key to Nigerian survival. A lot of Nigerians do diaspora remittances. So what are we going to do to ensure that continue to flow to support our economy? From all of us here at the ADBN studio in Abuja, I am Adefola Olamilekon, wishing you a very wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great bye.